Hey, and welcome back to the Marketer of the Day podcast. We're here with Blaney Teal, and she's the founder of Making Business Connections, MBX, which is a premier networking organization. And she's also the Frugal Techie Coach. She's the founder of the Next for Success Accelerator Academy. Now, Blaney is all about helping business owners just like you implement strategies and systems that save you time and money by shortening the learning curve. She's a contributor to an Amazon bestseller book called One Habit for Entrepreneurs. It's the largest book on entrepreneurship, and she has an upcoming book called The Lunch State: Why Skipping Lunch is Hazardous to Your Health. But there's also the Frugal Techie Business Tip Show. And the most exciting thing about all this is that Blaney does retreats, and she has a beachfront resort on the Caribbean where she will be hosting off-the-grid business and executive retreats. So exciting times ahead, exciting things to talk about right now. So Blaney, glad to be talking to you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Yeah, you're the first to really know about the beachfront. It's official. So super excited. I just booked my first executive retreat for January for a big organization. So yeah, you're the first fresh off the news there.
Nice. World premiere, breaking news, and everything else like that. And so as far as what you do, is the retreats what you want to talk about, or do you have some other passion? Just like, what's your focus these days, the last 6 to 9 months?
Excellent. So my main focus obviously is the networking organization. So I love helping people market themselves through networking. And I'm able to use my retreats as an extension of that, right? Which is going to be incredible. All the connections that I've been making over the last, 25 years in entrepreneur space, I now have connections worldwide. So that's going to be kind of fun. But I really do love the networking piece of things, because I wouldn't be where I am today if I didn't start networking years ago and continued networking through the pandemic and today. It really has just opened up me to a world of opportunities and business ventures and just amazing things. And so our organization is now global. So we've now launched virtually into many, many different countries, but we also have in-person stuff here in the States. If people like to get together in person, we're still doing that. So it's still around.
And so that's wonderful. And so as far as networking goes, it's always great to see how great of a job people like you do for the networking, and to kind of just like up our game and figure out, what we're doing wrong, what we should be doing. And I think that we never do enough networking, and I would love to do this thing of, always be figuring out who to talk to on social media, in podcasts and Zoom like we're doing here. So that way, if you just know that you're putting in the legwork, doing enough numbers, then that will translate to these people recommending you, or you having this top of mind awareness, or have just like people always just coming in based on the work you did ahead of time. And so before the pandemic, I used to enjoy going to seminars and going to local meetups, and then just like kind of having these random conversations with no agenda, nothing that I want, and then kind of getting these names and getting these business cards. And as you and I both know, so many people collect the wallet full of business cards and they never go anywhere. But then it's fun to then get them on a podcast like you and I like to do, and then kind of just see where it goes. And then in your case, it's even cooler, because then if you meet someone at an event, then what else do they like to do? Go to more events. And so what do you see happening as far as like the do's and don'ts with networking? Like what makes you really angry as far as networking mistakes, but what gets you excited as far as what is the right thing to do?
Exactly. Well, mistakes, I've seen my share of them, let's just say. So what I think is a broader topic, though, in terms of just the best practices. And number one is to make sure that you are showing up. Like, I see so many people will pay for a membership with MBX, and then I never hear or see from them again, regardless of how many emails or texts I'm sending them saying, please come out to an event, register, whether it's in person, virtual. They feel that if they just because they're in the directory with MBX, that they're going to get business through osmosis. And it just doesn't really work that way. You need to get that know, like, and trust factor. So you need to be top of mind. And so I'm not saying you have to go to every event we have or every event that in the networking world. But what I'm saying is pick the ones that resonate with you, that you feel comfortable in that arena, whether it's in person or virtual, online, whatever it is, and make sure that you actually make an effort to show up. Like you said, and I love what you said, no agenda. No agenda, because that's the most important part. Because I find so many people come there with that mentality of, I've got to get a deal today. I've got to go home with a sale tonight. Like, and that is not networking, right? That is not networking. We always say we're not selling on the spot here. We're here to educate. We're here to motivate, right? We're here to just learn about the other person. And before you know it, something clicks. And then there's either a referral or there's a business tip. There's something that comes out of that meeting with no agenda that really just catapults that person forward.
I love it. So it's so important to show up. If you just register for events and don't come to it, then, I mean, what the heck you're even doing? And even pre-pandemic, you and I both know when you get people to register for a live event, you expect like a third of them to show up, right? Because if they have to get on a plane, get the hotel, plans changes, there's like the tiniest of an excuse means, oh, well, now suddenly I can't make it to that event. So you say, show up, and make sure that you aren't just so desperate that you have to make this one sale work. And so as far as, if someone shows up to some sort of a networking event, I'm not sure what type you feel like talking about, like in person or Zoom, but like what sort of a best practices do you think, like should someone just like overcome their nervousness and just talk to whoever, or like what's, if someone says, okay, I haven't been to an event in a while, or I haven't been at all, what would you tell someone as far as like the actions, activities to do once they show up?
And that's so funny you say that, because a woman just called me today about an hour ago, said she's new to networking. She saw our website and she's interested in coming to an in-person event. And she's like, I'm kind of introverted. I don't really know what to do. She's like, you're going to have to help me through this. And of course, I told her not to worry. Honestly, most networking groups don't bite. We're pretty friendly. And usually there's a host or a hostess that will make sure that guests are comfortable. But I'll tell you, number one is if you're going to in-person, bring business cards. I cannot tell you how many times people show up, and yes, it's okay to have a digital business card, a green one, whatever. But if you don't have something, it doesn't work. Like, you need to be able to get and give information. So I see so many times. We did an event a couple of weeks ago in Bel Air. We had 42 people there networking, and it's a business cards exchange, right? It's a networking event, and half the people didn't bring business cards. I'm like, well, how's that going to work? You're supposed to pass your cards around. So number one is, yeah, bring business cards. Number two, if you're showing up in person, obviously look for the host or the greeter, whoever that might be, because they're going to then take your hand and they're going to introduce you and hand you off to somebody and introduce you to them. So you don't have to walk into a room and look around kind of like with, the glare, like, I don't know where to go. Everybody's in cliques. That's not normally the way it is. It can happen. But I usually just go look for the host or hostess and say, hey, I'm here. I'm the first time at your event. So, happy to be here. And they'll usually, get your card, you exchange pleasantries. And then if they're a good host, they're going to be like, oh my gosh, you got to go meet Robert. He's like the best. Let's go take you over there. And then you hand them off. And if everybody does that correctly, you're going to feel very welcomed. You're going to make some great connections. And like, once they find out what you do, they can invite you over to meet somebody that would be a good referral or a business partner or whatever that might be. So don't stress out about it if you've never been to an in-person event before, because they're usually have structure and they're usually fun. So, you never know who you're going to meet though. Just don't go with the agenda, I'm going to sell today. Go with the agenda of, hey, I'm going to this meeting because there's somebody there that either needs me or I need them. I don't know what that looks like, but there's a need there. And I go to all of my events all the time with that. I don't know why I'm showing up for this appointment today with this person I had at 9 o'clock this morning, but there was a reason why we were meant to meet. So just go there with the open mind. Also go there with the abundance mentality. This I see a lot happen, Robert. I actually get calls sometimes from people who are thinking about attending an event. And they'll say, Blaney, is there another travel agent coming to the meeting? And I'm like, I honestly don't know. I could go look for you. I said, but let me just explain that we are not an exclusive organization. We believe in the abundance mentality. So just because you're travel agent A and somebody else is travel agent B, A doesn't mean that you can't work together. Number two, doesn't mean you both. One might be a cruise specialist. One might be a Disney specialist, right? One might want to work with seniors. One might want to work with, wedding planners. So we believe in that. So I told the person that called me, I think there is one coming. I said, but please, you're not stepping. Oh, I don't want to step on their toes. Oh, no, there is no toe stepping. We all know, like, and trust factor. So I get a call the next day from this person and she's like, how was the meeting? I said, it was awesome, but the other travel agent didn't show up. So you would have been the only one. And they didn't come because they had that mentality of, I had a realtor do it to me a couple of months ago. She goes, I only want to come if I can be the only realtor. And I said, I can't promise you that. Sometimes we have 0 realtors. Sometimes we have 5, but they're all in different areas of the state. They're all, again, have different specialties for senior aging, first time buyers. I said, just come and enjoy the meeting. Oh, nope. I will only come if I'm the only realtor. And so again, She did not come. And guess what? There were no other realtors there. Now, it could have happened the other way around. There could have been 5. But don't go there with such a small-minded mentality that you have to be the only one, because I promise you, some of my best networking that I do, this morning I just had a UK global networker, and she has a global networking organization in the UK. And I'm like, we're going to end up doing stuff together. We do the same thing in different countries, and we both want to be global. So why recreate the wheel? We're going to work together. So don't go there with a small mind, please. Go there with an abundance mentality.
I agree that it's self-defeating to say, oh, well, there's one person there in the same industry as me, and I can't show up. I mean, that's like saying, like, well, someone is going to be there with a yellow shirt and I have a yellow shirt, so why what's the point? And also, like, I found, and maybe you have too, that sort of thinking is like a 20 plus years ago mindset, right? That was before social media and before all these like directories and before LinkedIn. And nowadays, if I know that there's someone like me in my industry who will be at a networking event, I'm like, that's exactly the person I want to talk to. And it's not even a matter of like being frenemies or anything like that. It's like, I want to be like full on legitimate friends with this, who you might used to call a competitor, but like, yeah. I don't know, competitors don't really exist that much anymore. And if there's someone who's similar to me, it's like, I want to have them on my podcast and I want to be on their podcast as well. So that way it's like, it's all interrelated, and that way I give and I get, because the real death there is existing in a vacuum. And so you're delivering some great advice here of, don't let the smallest of excuses prevent you from going to these networking events. Make sure to bring business cards, and then to sort of jumpstart the conversation, go and find the leader of the event. And I mean, yeah, if you think of in the mindset of a leader of a networking event such as yourself, you would hate it if people showed up and just didn't talk to you, right? But you would love it if someone showed up and just came in and basically checked in the same way that you check in at a hotel or a dentist office and have them get their name tag and write their name on that. And so that's all really good advice. And so you shared some little stories about how some people had like a good time, had some success with some of these networking events. Do you have a really kind of like bigger story? Do you have a good story to really get someone like fully sold on this idea of networking that comes to mind, like a start to finish kind of thing, where you can say, here's a really great networking story? What do you have?
Well, I'm sure I have plenty, but one came to mind specifically. A lot of times people will go to networking events. Again, maybe they don't even have a job, or they're looking for a job, or maybe, so for instance, in this particular situation, the person was looking for a business opportunity. So he came to the event and he said to me in these words, he goes, I think your networking members are too small for my business. Like, meaning he wanted people with higher revenue generating, whatever, C-suite, whatever that was. And it was so funny. So he ended up sitting down at our event, and he gave me the impression he wasn't going to join, but he's welcome. He ends up sitting next to one of our members, and they started talking. And I guess he wasn't looking for, maybe he wasn't looking for a job. He was looking for a new client. And let me be more specific. And he was like, so the guy said to him, well, if I could introduce you to anybody in the world right now, who would it be? And the guy was like, it was so-and-so and so-and-so, John Hopkins University, or whatever it was. He was very specific. And lo and behold, the guy's like, he's like my best friend. And so the guy was like, oh my gosh, seriously? He's like, yeah, I know him really, really well. I can definitely get you a meeting with that guy. And so here, this man came in again with kind of a small-minded person, mentality of, oh, like your people can't introduce me to the kind of quality of people I want, which was totally, he made that story up in his head. And it's not, the person sitting next to him wasn't the CEO of John Hopkins or whatever it was, but he knew the person. So there's so much power. You don't sell to the 12 or 20 people in the room, right? You're educating them and asking for help, finding the people that you need to meet. And here it was. And another story happened almost exactly like that. Now, this guy did come looking for a job, and it was crazy because he gave his resume to the guy next to him. And the guy next to him, he had said, I guess on the resume, here's the companies I'd like to work for, kind of thing. Same thing. The guy's like, oh, I can introduce you to that guy. And he got his dream job through an MBX meeting. He didn't think he was coming there to look for a job. He was coming there to meet people, thought, hoped, and he did. He actually got his dream job because he sat next to somebody who knew the person that was at the top of his list for jobs. So again, you guys, there's so much power. Personally, I've been able to meet people like Forbes Riley, who's writing the forward for my book. I mean, she is like the HSN pitch queen. She's she's been on stages with Grant Cardone, right? And all of that. And I met her through networking. And actually, she just invited me to her home in St. Pete's to host MBX events in her studio there once a month as one of our locations for our MBX in person in Florida. Like, that would have never, I get chills just saying that. She's like, Blaney, just find a host that'll run it. You can use my studio. It's sitting there once a month. Bring business owners. We'll cater it. I'll come and do a 10-minute talk every month. I'm like, that's like a godsend. Like, that is just amazing, right? So networking works. And I met her through a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend who knew her.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And that's I think a really important, that's probably like the most important mindset as far as networking events, to shift away from that old school thinking of, I need to make a deal today, I need to tell people here, into shifting to the other attendees that you meet are your referral sources. And you know, with the podcasting, I come across people all the time who say like, well, I only sell to women entrepreneurs, or they say I only wanted to have, you know, clients that are 20 million to $100 million a year. And it's great to know what you want, but don't discount the path that it will take to get you to that person. And don't just say, I won't be on this podcast, or I won't be at this event, or I won't talk to this person, because they may know, like you say, the friend of the friend who then leads you somewhere else. And so, so people should be attending networking events. Don't discount who you're talking to. Bring business cards. And me personally, I love when there's the business cards with like the person's picture on it and like their website and email. And so many business cards don't even have that. And if they have like their physical address, I love that too. So that way later on, when it comes time for me to follow up, I can then be like, oh yeah, I remember this person exactly. And so along those lines, what is your advice for the after the event steps, as far as like the follow-up, the emailing, the LinkedIn friending, the reaching out? Yeah. Do you have a like preferred like tasks to do after meeting someone after an event?
Absolutely. And again, it's going to depend on the person, but you need to follow up, number one, because if you're waiting for them to follow up with you, it probably will never happen, even though they might think they want to. Just take it upon yourself to make sure that you are the one to follow up. But again, let me say this, you don't need to follow up with everybody. Like, just because you went to a meeting with 53 people, all 53 of those people are not going to be a best match for you or your business or your power partner or referral partner. Not at least right now, right? So when you go into an event, I say pick out maybe 2 or 3 people that you really want to follow up with. Like they just felt something, whether it was the energy, whether it was their collaborations, or maybe you want a joint venture with them. Maybe you are personally interested in their services, whatever. But I would pick only 2 to 3 in the beginning to really get in touch with. The rest of them, again, that's up to you. I have a networking tracker that I actually developed for my organization, because not every person that you meet is a prospect, right? But they are a connection. And so it's really important to track that connection. And maybe some of them you only follow up with every 3 months. Some people I follow up with every couple of weeks, because we're working on something together and it takes that long to keep going. But again, you're right. LinkedIn now has opened up an entire world. You should be LinkedIn connecting with everybody that you think's a good fit, a good connection, right? You don't have to do every single person, but definitely take a look at that. At our events, we actually send out the spreadsheet after our normal events of all of the people that attended. So it's very easy to take the spreadsheet, go to LinkedIn and put their names in and connect with them. And so that's very, very easy. I prefer that over Facebook. Obviously, Facebook's more personal. There are some people that I want to be friends with on Facebook because I want to tag them at the event that we were just in. So I want them to be my friends on Facebook, but I'm always over my 5,000 limit. So I'm constantly having to delete people. So LinkedIn is much better, but it is important that you do what you say you're going to do. So if you say to someone when you meet them, oh my gosh, I have a great referral for you, I'll send it to you later, you better send it to them. Right? You need to follow up. Like somebody asked me for the link for the retreat in Mexico, because she wants to book her next executive retreat. So immediately when I hung up with her from our one-to-one, I went in and made sure I gave her all the stuff that we discussed. Because I think whether it's a virtual meeting or in person, just keep your word. Make sure you do it that day. Once it gets into day 2, day 3, day 4, you've missed your window, right? Seriously. So follow up right away. I pick 2 or 3 people and I schedule a one-on-one with them. Again, I don't want to do 32 one-on-ones. I want to look at the list and say, all right, these are some folks that I need to get to know better, schedule and invite them to a one-on-one. I send them a calendar link. I don't want to play phone tag. I'm actually doing something right now I never say I do, which is going back and forth on Messenger, trying to book an appointment with this person. And I'm like, you know what? Just go to my link and book it there. Because by the time he got back to me, I already booked the time he said. And then I got back to him and then he was busy. And I'm like, I don't want to play email booking tag. So just give them a link and say, hey, if you're interested in meeting, I'd love to do a one-on-one with you. Here's my calendar link, book some time with me, and I look forward to it. And I put it on them. Because I'm really busy. I mean, you're busy, I'm busy. I put it on them. I know if they book with me, I get almost zero cancellations because they know my time is valuable and so is theirs. So if they take the time to book, they show up, and that's great. But yeah, whatever the follow-up is that you do, I mean, like I said, I have a networking tracker that I offer that has you put it in there with notes, like you said. And I agree. Like if they don't have a picture on their business card, go to LinkedIn and get their picture and save that in the networker tracker or wherever you have, because that is going to help you remember them the next time you meet them. And when you get on a Zoom with them, you're not like, oh, who was this person? You're like, oh yeah, I recognize that person. And yes, I always have my photo. If you're getting new business cards, everybody needs their photo on there, especially for me. My name is Blaney. I can't tell you how many times I get Mr. Blaney. Right. So I make sure my photo is on everything that I do and all my branding, so they realize I am a woman. Of course, I went back to second grade, Robert, when I was put on the boys list in first day of school. Literally, they're like going down the boys list. They're like, Blaney Dobry. And I'm like, I'm a girl. I'm not on the boys list. So it taught me really fast to make sure that your photo is out there, and make sure you have a current headshot too, guys. If you're doing business, don't use one from like 30 years ago, and, use a real photo of yourself, because that's what people will judge you like, oh, wow, that doesn't look like her anymore. So I update my photos once a year. So.
And yeah, be real, be authentic. And there's, again, but thinking back to like the old school mentality, people used to be afraid of having the photo on the internet, but it's like, you have your photo in real life anyway. So what's the difference at that point? And so you're saying that it's important to maybe don't add all this work for yourself, but if 2 or 3 people from the event stand out, figure out who you need to just ping really quick and move things over to the next level, and have some of these Zoom meetings, these Zoom calls. And kids these days will never understand the massive convenience of having one of those schedulers where you set your office hours and they can go and choose a day and a time and fill in their details. And the next thing you know, you're meeting on Zoom. And I imagine that dealing with people that attend live events sort of qualifies them a little bit more, because they kind of, they're that upper percent of business owners who actually care enough to do these kinds of big picture thinking and the networking. And then you yourself are probably also qualified to them more than the average person, because you've actually met up with them one-on-one and also recently. So as we're about to wind down our conversation and get into things like your networking tracker and your events and all that, what question am I not asking you that I should be asking you? What should people really know about networking and about things you have going on? What's the hidden missing question here?
I would say I'd like to address virtual networking just a minute, because a lot of my in-person members, when the pandemic hit, refused to do virtual networking. And I even have members today that'll say, Blaney, I will not get on a virtual networking event. And I really tell you, you are missing out, because I told you don't know who you're going to meet. But on the virtual events, one, you don't have to worry about the gas to get in there to and from, and you can put a few, more events into one day. In the old days, I could go to one lunch in a day, right? An hour drive, a 2.5 or 2 hour meeting, an hour home. I was exhausted. Now I can hold 3 to 4 one-on-ones or virtual networking events and never leave my home. But people tell me they don't want to do them, and I'm not really sure why. But so my best tips would be number one is not all virtual events are created equal. For instance, in MBX, we do not actually use Zoom for anything. I am the Frugal Techie business coach, so I love finding really cool tech to host events on. So not even my one-on-ones are on a Zoom. I've canceled my Zoom account. I found stuff that's better, more affordable, have more features for less, just why I'm the Frugal Techie business coach. But you need to go on a couple of different events and see which ones appeal to you. Like my favorite one is our one-to-one networking blitz, where it works on artificial intelligence and you get to tell it who you want to meet or not meet. So if you see 30 people on there and I'm like, okay, don't meet with Blaney. I met with her last week. Don't meet with Robert. I've never seen this person. I'll mark them green. Yellow, I say the universe will decide for you. And then it uses artificial intelligence from your profile to give you the best matches. And you get 7 minutes of a one-on-one, which is enough time to either schedule another appointment for longer or to be like, okay, that was nice. I met that person, but that's not a good fit for me. So I'm just going to leave it with, nice to meet you. And so each of our events has a different flavor, different energy. And we do that on purpose because we're the fun method of networking. FUN's an acronym, but I don't want you to, don't say poo-poo to virtual networking, because there are some amazing events out there and I get so much out of most of them. There are some that are not so much, but now I think some have left because of the pandemic. They've closed down. A lot of the virtuals popped up and a lot of the virtual companies went away. But those of us that are still doing both are still here. We've really fine-tuned the event so that it is engaging, it's fun, and you don't fall asleep. It's not boring. Of course, make sure that you dress appropriately for virtuals. I've seen people, Robert, one guy with his shirt off.
Oh, no.
And I'm like, I was texting my members. I'm like, is his shirt? He was a guest. I'm like, is his shirt actually? She's like, yeah, he's got no shirt on. I'm like, that's not how you show up for a virtual event. It still matters. Laying in bed, another no-no. Like I see people laying in their bed with their laptop on their thing and you can tell it's their freaking bed. I'm like, that's a big no-no. I mean, whether you just be professional, you don't have to be in an office. You can certainly use the blur or the virtual backgrounds to hide where you are, but just dress like you would for a real in-person event. I still get dressed up. I do my hair, my makeup. I don't put my high heels on. I'll have to say for the first 3 months of the pandemic, I still wore my dresses and my heels when I live streamed. And after a while, I decided to kick the heels off. But just don't be afraid of virtual networking. They'll say sometimes, well, I can't go out of Maryland. I'm only a Maryland, licensee or whatever. But you'll be surprised, even if you meet someone in another state or country, even though you might not be able to do business with them. First of all, you'll be surprised how many people they know in your backyard. Like my friend from Canada has somebody that lives in Baltimore. Like it's such a small world. And then on top of that, you can really pick their brain though, because you're not going to be competing with them because you're in different countries or states. So you can say, what's working for you? What have you been doing that's making a difference in your business? And it's okay. And then you share what works for you. They share what works for them. You're not competition, like you said, and it's amazing. So don't ever discount. And I'll tell you, I get a lot of aha moments from networking events. I might not get referrals all the time, but again, I hear somebody else say, oh, I'm using this piece of tech, or, hey, oh my gosh, have you heard about this event that's coming up? Maybe you want to be a speaker on it. Like those are things that I get from virtual networking. So just don't prejudge it. Just go out and try it. If you've never done a virtual networking event, you can check out ours. You can check out some of the other ones. You'll be shocked. You might actually have a lot of fun.
Amazing. Fantastic. And you're so right that with networking events, you never know who you'll find, who will be there. And then also that thing you just said about like finding the tidbits that you didn't even know you needed to know, like some Zoom alternative or some new way of looking at business or some new app or some new website or things like that, or just kind of having a little bit of finger on the pulse about what people are doing and talking about these days. I mean, it's really intangible. It's hard to explain. But then if someone goes out there and just tries out some of these virtual networking events, that's something to really to take action on and do, especially because I can't be the only person that never got back into events after the pandemic. Like I was kind of already dialing it back somewhat beforehand, and after the pandemic, I mean, for sure it was done. And now I'm just like not really very motivated to go and look and like, is this or that meetup, is that back, or is this event back? And then you have to wonder, is it even really fully back? Has it even really fully recovered? And is the attendance what it was, especially after the pausing and all that? And so you really kind of piqued my curiosity here as far as looking into these virtual events and attending some. And if someone says, well, I don't know which one to attend, obviously the answer is MBX, right? That's a good starting point. So that way they don't get stuck in the analysis paralysis of saying, oh, there's all these other ones. They should start with yours. So can you tell us about what the call to action is here and what people should do as far as that next step and how they can look into your virtual events, your retreats? How do they find out more about you?
Excellent. Well, first of all, you can find out everything about MBX at our website, which is mbxevents.com. So the call to action, I would say, is go register for an event. I don't even want you to be a member yet. I want you to go register for an event. 99% of our people don't buy online. They actually go to an event and then they buy at or after the event. Why? Because you have to experience it, right? So yes, go to our website. You'll see events in Maryland, Pennsylvania, Virginia, and Texas for in-person. And then you can search for just virtual events. So we have 4 to 6 virtual events per month. There's about 3 or 4 different flavors or styles. But then once you're a member of MBX, you actually get access to a hidden calendar with a joint collaboration that I did with about 20 other global networking organizations. And you get all of their events for free as well. Now, you're not going to see them on our calendar because you have to be a member to see the 100+ hidden monthly events. But talk about getting, like paralysis, that can get a little crazy. So I love what you said. Start by going to an MBX one first. And if you love it, then when you join, you'll have access to over 100 virtual events per month. And just like with that, I've shown up for some and they were awesome. I've shown up for others and they were not so great. You find the groups that resonate with you, but the positive thing is you don't need to join all 20 organizations. You join mine and you get access to all of theirs. And in return, they get access to ours. So we get more people attending our events. Like you said, we want as many people there as we can get in our membership, in our guests, and then with the joint collaboration. So mbxevents.com. If you are interested and you're ready to join, I will throw this out there. You can use the code Blaney, BLANEY. That is my code. And you put that in on the membership page and it will give you a very nice discount. So anybody that's listening to this, that code will be available. And or just call to action, go to a meeting, whether it's in person, virtual, go to somebody's, hopefully ours, come show up. I run most of the virtuals, so you'll see me. The in-persons, I have leaders that run them because I can't travel around the world to do that. But go to an event and then let me know what you think. You can find me on LinkedIn, connect with me on LinkedIn, and let me know if you have any questions about going to events.
Fantastic. That is mbxevents.com, coupon code BLANEY. And then while you're at it, also add Blaney on LinkedIn. That is BLANEY, last name TEAL. And whenever I'm thinking, well, is my business growing fast enough or is my business easy enough? Usually the answer, if that's not the case, is that I'm not talking to enough people. I mean, if you think about the success of iTunes, wasn't because of the technology, it was because they made all the deals with the record labels, right? The success of Netflix wasn't that they mailed DVDs or streamed movies, it was because they made all these deals for all these movies and TV shows. So you can't succeed unless you're networking and you're dealing with people and figuring out who can help you to get to where you need to go. And of course, it's a two-way street because you help them as well. And it sure beats just sitting on your bed or laying on your bed with your shirt off and hoping that it will improve better. You need to be talking to the people and joint venturing, getting where you need to go. mbxevents.com. And then as we're wrapping things up here, Blaney, it's always fun to think about, and it's always fun to put someone on the spot and ask someone about if they have a favorite lesson or quote or advice they wish they'd gotten 10 or 20 years ago in order to shortcut the success that they had. So does anything like that come to mind? A favorite lesson, quote, or advice you wish you'd gotten in the past?
All right. So my favorite quote, and I don't have my mug in front of me right now, but I usually do, is done beats perfect. And this really applies to many things you do in your life. And I teach this in my academy because whether you're working on a web page, whether you're working on a podcast, whether you're working on a book, whether you're working on your follow-up process, if you don't do anything, you've got zero. At least if you make an effort and you try, even though it might not be perfect, you are still going to have results. So whether they may not be as good if they were perfect, but I promise you, I try to teach my clients, done beats perfect every time. So get it done. So if you're working on whatever, even if you got the business cards made and they're not perfect, at least you have them. That's better than not having them, right? If you're going to a networking event, okay, maybe you'll talk to 2 people instead of 5. Okay, you went though. You stepped out of your comfort zone. You showed up. You took that step out of your house or on your computer. Done beats perfect again. So that is, I can't tell you, I always think about that when my friends are overthinking everything. I'm like, all right, guys, you're overthinking it. Just remember done beats perfect. Because you can always go back and tweak it later. Like I just did a landing page for my retreats and then it's done, right? It's done. It's probably not perfect, but it's done. And I was able to give it out to the 2 people that are booking retreats. So it's good enough. They're booking. But if I didn't have the link with all the information about what I can provide for them as a host of their retreat, if I didn't have an application for them to fill out, nothing would be happening right now. I wouldn't have a booking for January already. But because I took the time to get it done, even though I promise you it's not perfect, there might be a typo or 2, but it's not ugly. It looks pretty cool. I got 2 bookings, right? So again, done beats perfect. Trust me, if you just remember that in your head, anytime you get stuck, whatever it might be, just say, look, Blaney said, done beats perfect. Just get it done. I promise that will beat it being perfect every time.
Very nice advice. And we'll leave it there. Done beats perfect. And so the thing that you need to get done next and not get perfect is go to mbxevents.com, coupon code Blaney, and go and get yourself registered. Don't overthink it. You'll look back years from now and say, you know, I needed to start where I was at some point. And the things that I thought I needed to tweak and change later didn't need changing. I just had to get started and not overthink it, not get so nervous. And what's the other saying about something like action beats anxiety? So done meets perfect. Get it done. mbxevents.com. And thank you very much, Blaney, for showing up, blowing our minds, giving us some wonderful advice.
Thanks for having me.